just like that, summer movie season has come and gone. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. So today I'm ranking every summer 2025 movie that I saw. There were lots that I didn't end up getting to, but I still have a decent amount here to discuss, and I'm going to do this tier list style. Again, these are just the summer 2025 movies that I saw. I've got reviews for a lot of these movies here on the channel, but I also have reviews on my Letterboxd for some. But it's crazy to me that the summer movie season is already over. It's August 20th. We're almost to September. Fall is going to kick into another gear. The weather's about to get colder. The time's going to change. I mean, things are going by fast, and to quote Ferris Bueller, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it, and that's facts. Before I get into this tier list, let me know your favorite summer movie down below, and of course hit that like button, subscribe to that notification bell, and if you want extra content, you can find that over on my Patreon. Any support over there truly does mean the world, but I say we just go ahead and get down to business with this tier list. I've got my standard tiers here, which are going to be S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier, and F tier. And I've got the movies randomized. I don't know how many there are. They're in no particular order, so let's just go ahead and get down to business. First up is Jurassic World Rebirth. I will give credit to this movie for being better than the last two by a good margin. However, it is undeniably still a weak entry in the franchise. No Jurassic film will ever reach the heights of Jurassic Park, and this one's fine at best, which is not something I should be saying about a Jurassic movie. I think it sits at like 828 million worldwide, so it's still making money. I think I gave this one around 2.5 out of 5, so like a 5 out of 10. It's like between C and D tier for me. I have continued to not think about this movie since I've seen it. There's a whole plot line with this other family that's introduced that just drags the movie down. It should have been about ScarJo's character, Mahershala, and Jonathan Bailey. None of that other family crap. We'll start in C tier, and that's probably even too high, to be honest with you. But there were worse movies this summer, and that could change. Just because I put something in a tier doesn't mean I won't move it later on in the video. Next up, we've got Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning. I adore this franchise. In fact, I would say it's one of my favorite franchises ever in terms of pure consistency. There's one miss in the entire franchise, and even then, it's better than the worst entries in a lot of other popular franchises. Final Reckoning is a movie, to me, that sticks the landing. It's a way to sort of send Mission Impossible off into the sunset. It features two of the best action sequences in the entire franchise, but also that I've ever seen put to film. The submarine sequence as well as the biplane sequence, just breathtaking stuff. I was physically sweating and tensed up in the theater watching them. Now, I will acknowledge the movie's got a long runtime, but to me, that never weighed it down. I know there's a lot of issues with this movie for others. For me, I dug it all. I felt like it was a fitting send-off to this franchise, and I was very satisfied. I've seen the movie twice. I will definitely be owning it physically because gotta represent Mission Impossible whenever that comes out on 4K. And so I'm gonna say for me, it's consistently been one of my favorites of the years. Since May, I've had this at my #1 spot, and only recently has there been a challenger to maybe take that spot or not. We'll have to see later in this video. I am gonna say, based on 2025 movies, this is one of the best. It's top 2 for me, so I'm gonna go S tier. The last hour and a half alone kind of guarantees that, but I'm a fan of everything we got leading up to it, so I'm going S tier with the Final Reckoning, and I'm sure that turns some heads, but hey, it's just my 2 cents, my opinion. I adored that movie and the franchise as a whole. Next, we've got Pixar's Elio. Talk about a snoozer. I mean, this movie's super forgettable. One of the more generic from Pixar, in my opinion, and I shouldn't be saying that about one of their original ideas. It's sad. I think Pixar has lost some of the juice as of late. To me, they haven't had a great original film since Onward, which I'm aware is a hot take in and of itself because most people haven't seen that movie or don't care about that movie and are dismissive of it. So I'm going to say D tier for Elio. This one did not do it for me. Hasn't aged well at all. And you can tell this movie was doctored behind the scenes. There was a trailer that came out for this almost 2 years ago that pitched a completely different movie. They scrapped tons of this. That's why the budget actually ended up being pretty high. Elio was D tier for me, so you know, whatever. A lot of these movies haven't aged well, by the way. I've found I've rated movies higher than I feel about them right now. An example of that is Fear Street Prom Queen. This was the 4th Fear Street film, sort of connected to the trilogy, not really. But when it comes to Prom Queen, this is a movie that was really, you know, by the numbers in terms of slashers. There wasn't anything new or exciting. It had an 80s soundtrack that was pretty neat, and I liked stepping into that time period, but the more I've sat with this movie, the less I've liked it. It just feels so generic. It's any other throwaway high school slasher, and I didn't hate this initially. I know a lot of people really did not like this movie when it first dropped. For me, I was like whatever on it. I think I gave it like a 3 out of 5. That score's definitely dropped, and if I ever go back and rewatch this, it will be a lot lower. I'm going D tier with Fear Street Prom Queen. I'm gonna put it right here. I think the movie, I'll put it over Elio, I guess, because, you know, it had its fun slasher kill moments, but even then it was pretty tame for a slasher, and it doesn't hold a candle to the Fear Street trilogy. There wasn't enough lore. They didn't explore really shady side or any of the exciting elements of the trilogy. This was a lot more of a surface level slasher, and that's unfortunate. Next, we have Ballerina, the John Wick spinoff, which features Ana de Armas in the lead role. Movie has some badass action, I won't lie. There is like a 10-minute scene, or like 5 minutes, we'll call it, with John Wick himself, where he's kicking ass, and I'm just sitting there going, John Wick's kind of stealing the spotlight from anyone else in this movie. Why don't we just get more of him? So I think it's the weakest in the franchise, but I'd go B tier with John Wick, the Ballerina movie, that is. It's fun enough, you know, of course, it's not as good as John Wick, and John Wick himself comes into this movie and reminds the audience, hey, I'm better. And that's that, but I am better. They do a decent enough job fleshing out the main character's backstory, and the villains are kind of fine, but it's entertaining as hell. There's some pretty badass action. Next, we have Karate Kid Legends, a movie that I abhor. It's going in F tier. I really can't stand this movie. I know a lot of you are probably like, you're being mean to it. This movie's an abomination to me because it is disrespectful to the franchise. And that's really all it comes down to. It's a personal preference thing. I hate that this movie canonizes the 2010 Karate Kid film into the Miyagi-verse. It's something that was very clearly established to be its own thing, but Sony said, hey, we're desperate. Let's try this little cash grab, and let's see if we can maybe, just maybe, spit on the legacy of the Karate Kid, because this movie's pitched as two legends coming together to train this new kid. That's not even what the movie's about, so they lied in the marketing to your face. Jackie Chan, he's maybe in the movie for like 40 minutes, maybe. Ralph Macchio, way less of a role. These two characters don't have as much of a role as the marketing would let on. And the first like half of this movie, he's actually training the owner of a pizza shop because he's gonna box. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. It just doesn't feel authentic in the slightest. It was offensive to me, honestly. And with it not including the Cobra Kai creators who have successfully, you know, capped off a 6-season show that is a love letter legacy sequel to the Karate Kid franchise, this just feels so disrespectful coming off the heels of that, and I can never get on board with it. So the movie also has a laughable TikTok soundtrack with just like TikTok's greatest hits. Scenes begin and don't really go anywhere. It's really jarring how they edited this film, so F tier for me. It's an abomination. Next, we got Bring Her Back. This is an A24 horror film directed by the Philippou brothers. They did Talk to Me. I much prefer that film. Bring Her Back, a lot darker. It's disturbing, frankly. It's a movie that will make you feel gross when you're watching it, and I didn't really care for where they wrapped up certain characters' stories. It went a little too overboard with the darkness, in my opinion, and that's fine. It's also got some gruesome imagery, but there's a lot to say about the grieving process here, and I just like the Philippou brothers' directorial style so much that I'm willing to forgive some of my issues with the story. I didn't love this one. I wanted to, because I quite like Talk to Me. I would put this in B tier still. I think I gave it 3.5. I'd still go B tier with it though, because it's a step up from the other movies that are below it. So I'd put it like right here probably. A bit underwhelming to me, but again, still very well made movie that I respect. Next, we have Thunderbolts, a movie that has grown on me time and time again. I saw it in theaters. I was a little underwhelmed, but still quite liked it. Saw it again, liked it more. Saw it a third time, liked it even more. And when I watched it a fourth time, it could hop up even higher. So this movie has legs for me. It's got this awesome dynamic between these characters. An unconventional team up. They have this, you know, family dynamic going by the end. The action's there. The comedy's hitting. It's got a lot to say about the, you know, mental health, loneliness, depression, all these, you know, themes. They're more mature for an MCU film, but it's so well shot. I just like how it has its own directorial style. There's a voice here in the filmmaking, and I appreciate that. So I'm going A tier with Thunderbolts. It is definitely one of the year's best to me, and I would say it's the best comic book movie of 2025, in my personal opinion. Next up, we've got I Know What You Did Last Summer, the 2025 film. I watched the first two movies from the 90s in preparation for this, and this movie that's how I would define it. It didn't do anything to truly offend me because I'm not a diehard fan of that franchise. If I were, this would be a different conversation because it does make some decisions that are ballsy, really gutsy, I'll say that much. Some of the kills are all right. They're a little tamer than you'd expect, but I never really cared about anyone in this movie, which was a major issue. Even though I don't love the original I Know What You Did Last Summer, I think it's fine. This movie doesn't reach that height, really. Maybe it does, though. Maybe it is the best. Is that saying much? I don't think so. This is C tier for me. I'll put it like right here. serviceable enough slasher, but pretty forgettable, honestly. Like, I saw this movie over a month ago, and I'm like, yeah, probably never gonna watch that one again. Next, we got Lilo and Stitch, the live-action remake, the only billion-dollar club film that Hollywood has put out this year. We're getting a sequel. That one's probably gonna make boatloads of money as well. I think I gave this one like 3 out of 5. I mean, this year we've had a lot of like whatever movies. I would definitely drop my score now. It doesn't hold a candle to the original animated film. It doesn't do anything like that offends me to my core. Again, I'm not a diehard of the Lilo and Stitch film. I think it's a really good animated film from my childhood, but it's not a movie that I loved growing up as much as, say, The Lion King, you know? I would put this in probably C tier, probably the back or middle of C tier. Like, it's serviceable for a live action remake. The Stitch design works, but they change character decisions and where characters end up. And I feel like it's a bit of a betrayal when compared to the original animated film, and that didn't really sit right with me. I also don't care for how they changed characters entirely, like appearance-wise, role in the movie. There was some characters who weren't even in this film that played big roles in the original, and so lots of creative choices were made that made me kind of scratch my head and go, what was the point of that? So it made its money. I'll give it that. You know, it's whatever. Like, I get it. If a 10-year-old goes and watches this, they're probably going to love it. I'm not the target audience, but it is still one of the okay live-action remakes. There have been better ones, for sure. Next, we have F1. This movie's badass. I've only seen it once, but the Hans Zimmer score absolutely rules. When his name popped up in the opening credits, I went, yeah! That's how you know we're in for a treat. Brad Pitt's cool as shit, and he is doing that here as Sonny in this movie. It's got some riveting race sequences that put you in the driver's seat, a la Top Gun Maverick. What that movie did for, you know, fighter jets, this did for F1. I'm going to put this in A tier. I'm actually going to go right above Thunderbolts. I need to see this one again. I didn't get to see it in IMAX. I saw it in, you know, standard theater, but I didn't see it in IMAX. F1 has an awesome score, a pretty cool soundtrack with some original songs made for the movie as well, and I just love me a good, like, sports story that inspires me. By the end, I, like, have my fist pumping in the air. I'm like, hell yeah. Like, I don't know how realistic it really is because I'm not a huge F1 fan in real life. I'm actually not a fan at all, but this piqued my interest in the sport and was a well put together movie that I quite enjoyed. It's like a dad movie, and I'm kind of a fan of dad movies if you didn't know that about me. Next, we got Weapons. This is a new horror film. I saw it last weekend in theaters. I don't have a review on the channel, but I do have a little review on my Letterboxd. It's directed by Zach Kreger, and I will say this is S tier for me. In terms of 2025 movies, this is the one that contends for that top spot with The Final Reckoning. And I'm really like tempted to just put it out right there because of the continued thoughts I've had about this film since the credits rolled. It's so uniquely told where there's different chapters of the film based around different characters and their perspectives, their POV. It reminded me a lot of, you know, something we would see Tarantino do in the 90s with like Jackie Brown, or something like Paul Thomas Anderson would do with Magnolia. And I dig that, but it also has a dark atmosphere. Something seriously disturbed has happened in this town, and as the mystery unfolds, you kind of see who's been pulling the strings all along. You get answers. Some things are left up in the air, which I liked, but there's some f***ed up stuff in this movie, and there are so many different interpretations of what happens. There are certain shots that are out of context on purpose, and it's up to the audience to sort of put the pieces of the puzzle together and interpret it in your own unique way, and I quite liked that. I have a couple different reads on this movie. I mean, initial thought was it might have something to say about, you know, violence in schools, but also I've seen interviews with the director where he's talking about how this is more autobiographical, and it's, you know, dealing with his own childhood growing up and alcoholic parents being involved. And so there are so many reads on this film, and I feel like each person's going to interpret it differently, which makes for a movie that's worth discussion, right? It's so well shot, though. Just looking at it as a horror film, there are elements of demonic horror with these dream sequences that will make your spine tingle, give you the heebie-jeebies, but there's also real moments of terror, like something from a true crime, like Criminal Minds or the movie Prisoners, for example. So it blends these genres really well, but what shines about Weapons to me is the fact that there are some genuinely funny moments here, and they break the tension really well. Like, Zach Kreger is able to balance that, right? You'll have this real intense dream sequence where you're like, what the hell was that? And then Brolin will have this one-liner that just gets the whole theater busting out. So it balances genres really well. In fact, blends them together in ways we aren't really seeing in movies right now. The score has its moments to shine and really enhance scenes, and I just think this is such an original movie that I got to be pretty high on this thing. I mean, I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since I saw it, and so to me, it's S tier. It's one of the best movies of the year, and it's one that, you know, you can dissect, and each time you go back and revisit, you can have a different, take on the movie. You can find or discover something new. You can talk with 5 different people about this movie, and each one might have their own perspective on it, which can open your eyes to something you completely missed. And so that's what I love about movies like this, is the ones that spark discussion, but are also just so well made. And I was a big fan of Weapons. I will say initially that the only thing holding it back from like 5 out of 5 territory for me was I thought the ending was slightly abrupt. Like the final moments, I would have liked a little more clarity there, but that's something that I think rewatches can. I'm talking about like the final 2 minutes of the movie, not like the final 10, like the final moment of the movie. I was like, damn, the movie's over, that's it, I wanted more. And maybe that's a good thing that I wanted more out of this movie, but I'm going S tier. I love Mission Impossible, and I will watch The Final Reckoning more than Weapons, but I think in terms of like what's the best movie of the year, I think Weapons is the best I've seen. And so I'm gonna put that at the top of S tier right now. That movie, it's you guys gotta check it out. Now, I didn't go in expecting this to be some crazy knock your socks off movie, but it ended up being awesome, and I think that that's good. Like, I had zero, this was not on my radar coming into the year. I hadn't even seen Barbarian. In fact, after watching this that night when I got home, I watched Barbarian for the first time, and so I had an interesting perspective as someone who'd never seen a Zach Cregger movie. I watched this before Barbarian, so I had no clue what I was getting myself into, and I felt like that was rewarding. Definitely one of my favorites of the year, though, and high praise for Weapons from me. Next, we got The Fantastic Four: First Steps. Underperforming at the box office, mind you, this movie is, but when it comes down to it, I dug it. I did. I'm going to say I prefer Thunderbolts, but Fantastic Four, I just liked the era we were in, right? We don't get period piece Marvel all that much, and so to step into this world, it was like this vintage 1960s retro futuristic world with an established Fantastic Four, but the movie does a good job of like saying, hey, this team's been around for 4 years, and we're going to let you guys know that. It's not like, boom, you're just thrown in the middle. Like, they montage through things and make you feel like, yeah, these are the heroes of this world. You buy into the family dynamic more than in any other Fantastic Four movie. Yes, I would have liked more characterization from the villain, and that's probably one of my biggest issues. But the Fantastic Four was all about the family. That sold me. And I am very down to see more of these characters in the future of the MCU. So I'm going to say this is not above Thunderbolts. I'm going to put this... this is tough. This is tough. I'm going to say it's right behind Thunderbolts in A tier. I really did end up enjoying this movie, and I've seen it twice. I plan to see it again this year at some point, probably on physical media. Fantastic Four did its job for me, and I love the Giacchino score too. Whew, chills. Chills. Next, we got Final Destination: Bloodlines, a movie that has grown on me since I've seen it. I was a little too harsh on it, I think. I've rewatched some scenes since I saw it in theaters. It's clearly a top 2 film in the franchise. I think I had it like 3 or 4. It's clearly top 2 in the franchise. And honestly, I am going to put this in B tier. I think initially when I saw it, if you would have asked me months ago, I would have put it in C. But it's such a fresh take on the franchise. It revitalized it in a sense. It was needed, especially even from the opening premonition, it not being the main girl's premonition, it being her grandma's. That is a cool enough, way to flip the script for me. So I'm going to put this in B tier. I'll put it like right here, probably. Right in the middle of B tier, because when I rewatch that, whenever that may be, my score will go up on Letterboxd. And again, scores are fun and all, but they're not some end-all be-all for me. I don't put that much weight on the star rating of a movie. I think about it in the moment, but that rating is going to change over time, in my opinion, for the most part, a lot of times at least. Next, we have 28 Years Later. Pretty damn disappointed with this one. This movie, it had such a wild ending out of left field, kind of soured the overall experience, but the movie that was promised is not the movie that was delivered. The marketing sold us something, the first act sold us something, and then the rest of the movie was just depressing. And if that's the route they want to go, fine, I get it. But there's some tonal clashing by the end that just made for a mess, in my opinion. There's like 3 movies in one here, it feels like at times. I was not a fan, and this movie has aged poorly. I was not high on it initially, I'm not high on it now, and it's definitely the weakest of those 3 movies to me. I'll go D tier with this bad boy. Top of D tier, that ending, it ruined the movie. Next, we have the How to Train Your Dragon live-action remake, a movie that doesn't hold a candle to the original. It is just a shot-for-shot remake that is somehow longer by a good chunk. I don't ever see myself revisiting this, to be honest with you, because if I get the How to Train Your Dragon bug, I'm watching the original. All day, no contest. So it's hard to even talk about this movie because it takes the great story, the characters, the shots, all of the artistry, the beauty of the first movie is copied here. So the way I view it is, this is like the copied homework assignment that changed a couple answers to not make it as obvious, but it's the lesser version, right? The original assignment, the animated film, is the one that got the A+. This is like the B or B-. It's serviceable, it's whatever. but it's clearly a knockoff of the original that's not as good. So I'm going to say like C tier for it because it's watchable. I mean, it's the story we all love. It's just in live action form. And if you want to see that, you know, more power to you. I'll put it like right here, actually. It just didn't do much for me, and I wish they would have tried something different, at least. Next, we have Predator, Killer of Killers. This movie is pretty damn awesome, and I went through the Predator franchise in June of this year. I got sick, and so I had like a week where I just watched all these movies, and this is a new one that came out on Hulu this summer, and the movie rocks. It's an anthology where you've got 3 different characters leading, you know, stories. They kind of intertwine by the end, but this is huge for just the Predator lore and the world moving forward. It opens the door to lots of possibilities, and with Predator Badlands on the horizon coming out this fall, there's lots to be excited about in this world with future collaborations between characters and even the Alien vs. Predator franchise potentially ramping back up after Predator Badlands. So when it comes down to this movie, I think my favorite of the 3 stories was the third, featuring the World War II pilot, but the samurai story was also cool, and like the Viking one as well. Pretty awesome stuff. There's some really cool Predator action. The animation is clean, and it was just a unique take on a Predator movie, something that I didn't expect coming into this year. So I'm going to say for me, Killer of Killers is going at the top of B tier. I put it like right here. It's teetering on that A line as well, but man, what a fun original movie. Next we have Superman, one of the most talked about movies of the year. I liked it, didn't love it. I will put it in B tier though. I'll put it like right here, probably. That seems appropriate for me. I enjoyed the movie. I think it's good to see James Gunn giving us a win. Like objectively, I'd say it's a win for DC in terms of setting us in the right direction. It was a movie that for the most part was well received by critics and fans. It didn't blow me away. There have been better DC movies in recent years, but it did its job. It didn't suck. And a lot of DC EU movies were trash, frankly, the past few years. They were unwatchable, really. And so this is setting us in the right direction. Corn Sweat as Superman owns it. He is Superman. You buy into him as Clark Kent and Superman. And I thought Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor was great as well. The issues I have with this movie arise from the fact that this is a film that's establishing a new universe for DC. So anyone should be able to watch this movie. Anyone with any knowledge of Superman, you know, they could be an expert, they could have never read a Superman comic or seen a piece of Superman media, and they should be able to hop right in and not feel lost. And I feel like this movie acts as almost the second of a trilogy, but there is no movie that comes before. It is about 3 years in with this Superman, this world's established, his relationship with other characters is established already, and so it's not your typical origin story. And that can be frustrating because for a movie that's supposed to establish universe, I would have liked to have seen some of the origins of it, because this is not the DCEU, it's the DCU, so it's a different version of Superman. Yes, we all know Superman's origin story for the most part. If you have seen any Superman movie, you know how Superman came to be, but this movie just assumes you should know that. But there's some cool fight sequences. Granted, all of them that stand out don't involve Superman. It's the Justice Gang. So yeah, Superman kind of gets the spotlight stolen from him from other heroes in this movie, so I have issues with it, but it's a fun watch. I've only seen it one time. There are a couple standout songs used in typical James Gunn fashion. Those work with the scenes they're featured in, and there's a heartwarming message that, you know, inspires hope by the end of the movie. So it does its job as a Superman movie fully. I just didn't love this one as much as I wanted to. And then last on this list, I've got Nobody 2, the sequel that nobody asked for. I mean, it's fine. I watched it the other day in theaters and I was like, this is basically just a rehash of the original movie in a new setting, and it's less exciting, less interesting. I'll put it in C tier, probably like right here at the top of C tier, because it is totally watchable. The action's fun, but it's not as intense. I don't care as much as I did in the first Nobody, and that's just because it's a bit goofier. There's a lot more comedy here, and like every character that's a villain, that's a side character from the first movie, is basically copied and pasted into this movie just with a different font. And so it is fine. It's serviceable, but the first Nobody is significantly better and more enjoyable in my opinion. But that does it for my ranking of all the summer 2025 movies that I watched, tier list style. Let me know in the comments down below your favorite movie of the summer. Of course, hit that like button, subscribe, and that notification bell. And if you want more content, Patreon is the place to be. But thank you guys, as always, for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.